MC today, Mr. Greg Bailey.
Wade, thank you. Good morning, everyone. We'll call that officially a smattering of applause. There we go. It's okay. Trust me, I'm not the show here today. For all of our distinguished guests, welcome and welcome everyone as we begin such a remarkable event here in Houston with the Chevron Houston Marathon and the Aramco Half Marathon. On behalf of everyone at ABC 13, I want the city to know how proud we are to be back and such an integral part of such an incredible event. People at our station have worked overtime for months to make sure that our live broadcast tomorrow, our Sunday morning, will be fantastic. As always, we get to highlight not only such an elite field of runners, but all the great stories, the charity events, and everything else that make this event such a huge part of our yearly calendar here in the city of Houston. The leadership at the highest levels of our city government makes events like this possible. I have come to know our great mayor as a couple of things. Number one, he's a great sports fan who is never afraid to share his opinions on sports with me. When we meet up, I can see him smiling over there. And also, he is a tremendous supporter and believer in bringing world-class events and staging world-class events in our city. We've seen that with the Super Bowl, many other events, and the Chevron Houston Marathon and the Aramco Half Marathon certainly qualify as a part of that list on our yearly calendar. With that in mind, it is my pleasure to introduce the mayor of the city of Houston, Sylvester Turner. Mr. Mayor, welcome.
Thank you, Craig. And look, it's good to be with you this morning. To Chevron and Aramco, let me thank these sponsors. They've been with us for quite some time, so very much appreciate that. So hello and good morning to everyone. This is a great day for Houston and for the Chevron Houston Marathon. And I don't know about you, but I'm excited to see and welcome all the runners, the spectators, the media and organizers of this 2022 race. I know you've already heard from Chief Fenner and HPD and Chief Pena from the Houston Fire Department, and then there's Susan Christian of Special Events. So we are, raring to go. The marathon is the largest single-day sporting event held in our city. Normally it brings in about 33,000 registrants. I think this year we're expecting about 28,000, over 7,000 volunteers, and more than 250,000 spectators on the streets of the city of Houston. And there's always something new and unexpected. This year, we're all looking forward to the runners passing through the new Memorial Park Land Bridge tunnels, which will open for the first time just for the marathon. And I mean, I'm so excited about that. Hell, I may run myself. And then stop. The national, international spotlight will be on this year's race. And with the visitors, hotels, restaurants, and all the surrounding excitement, we're anticipating a $51 million annual economic impact, and that's huge. And this year, Chevron Houston Marathon is sold out, which makes it more special as we celebrate the 50th anniversary of this race. In time for the anniversary, the Houston Marathon is back where it belongs, in person and on the streets. This year marks a return to the traditional race because, as you can recall, last year, the athletes ran together from anywhere during a virtual Houston Marathon. But this year we're back, we'll follow the proper healthcare protocols, but we know so much more now than we did 2 years ago. And we know enough to know that we can still be safe and we can run in person all at the same time. And that's the way we do it in the city of Houston. So the fact that the Chevron Houston Marathon is back along with all the runners show how resilient our city is and the determination of the organizers and runners who want to cross the finish line. And that's why I want to give a huge thank you to Chevron and to Aramco for just continuing to stay with us as we move forward. A huge shout out to all of the runners, whether it's the full marathon or the half marathon, for participating in this year's event. And lastly, I will be out there Sunday morning in that 70-degree weather at 6 o'clock in the morning. They may say 38, they may say 32 in your mind. it's whatever you want it to be. You know, it's whatever you want it to be. But we'll be with all of the runners, welcoming runners from all 50 states and 55 countries. So I want to thank everyone involved in making this a successful event, including the Houston Marathon Planning Committee, and a huge shout out to them because they're always incredible. To the sponsors again, Chevron and Aramco Americas, which sponsors the Aramco Houston Half Marathon. And I want to wish everyone good luck. And I certainly want to thank all of the city departments, employees, firefighters, police officers, people with special events, and public works, all of the city employees who will be out there as well. So let's go enjoy it. Let's be safe. But let's run to the finish line. Thank you. Thanks, Brad.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to point out that the hearty laughter from our police chief when you were threatening to run the marathon in no way indicated his doubts that you could start and finish this race, just for the record. So much of this is made possible through the remarkable generosity, support, and dedication of our corporate sponsors, and that certainly includes the great people at Chevron. With that in mind, it is my pleasure to introduce our guest who has one of the great titles in all of corporate America. She is the General Manager of Corporate Affairs for Chevron North America Exploration and Production. Please welcome Margaret Cooper to the stage. Margaret, that's a heck of a title.
I don't know. I think that my title today is just Houston Cheer on the Sidelines for all the runners. That's going to be my title. And Mayor, maybe we just take a drive tomorrow or Monday through Memorial Park. If the police chief approves, we might just do that because I will not be running. But we are here to celebrate the runners and to celebrate 50 years of the Chevron Marathon. And we are so excited to be a part of it. This is our 17th year as the sponsor, and this morning, I think it is worth recognizing that we celebrated the Run for a Reason, which is the charity part of the marathon, $33 million coming back over the years into the Houston community through this effort. So a lot of things to celebrate, but we are about the runners today, the elite runners. We want to welcome you to Houston. You make our city better by coming, and from Chevron, we have thousands of employees who call Houston home, and we are about excellence. We are about bringing the best to Houston. We're about human energy, and we will watch you run and see you portray that here through your aspirations, your dedication, your commitment, and we're just so proud to be a part of this and really look forward to a wonderful weekend with you all. Thank you for letting us be a part of this Houston tradition. Thanks.
Margaret, thank you, and thanks to everybody at Chevron. It is now time for the stars of the show, so to speak, some members of the elite field, which make this one of the great road races anywhere in the country. We invite our members of the media to ask questions. Once we bring the panel on board as a group, this will be the lone opportunity to ask questions, so fire away. With that, we welcome our first elite runner for the men's marathon, KHOU Gazahai. Welcome, KHOU, coming into the 2022 Chevron Houston Marathon. Our defending champion has won 9 of his 16 marathons. The 2020 race here came down to a duel in the final 9 miles. Gazahai surging ahead in the final 2 miles to win by a full 2 minutes. From Ethiopia, we welcome KHOU Gazahai. Welcome. Next up, we welcome Kenta Uchida, the Chevron Houston Marathon, the first time Uchida has competed outside of his native Japan. Welcome. In the year-end half marathon outside of Tokyo late December, he ran it as a tune-up. Uchida shared the lead until the final kilometer before finishing a strong runner-up. Here in Houston, he is hoping to run well enough to be chosen to represent Japan in the 2022 World Athletics Championships Marathon this summer in Eugene. That will almost certainly require a big personal best. We know he is capable of that. Welcome again from Japan, Kenta Uchida. Next up, a native Houstonian. We welcome Frank Lara to the podium. Very proud graduate of Straight Jesuit back in 2014, Lara won the state cross-country title as a senior. He was named the 2014 Texas Gatorade Boys Cross-Country Runner of the Year, later a three-time All-American at Furman. He is the 2020 USA Track and Field 15K National Champion, and in October of 21 lowered his half marathon personal best by almost a minute. He ran 1:01 flat in Valencia. Welcome one of Houston's own, Frank Lara, to the podium. At this point, we invite questions from the media. We tell everyone we do have interpreters, so fire away with questions for members of the elite field in the men's marathon.
Frank, how's your training going, and training in Texas versus training anywhere else in the United States, especially as far as high altitude?
I now live in Denver, and it's very different from what I did when I was in high school. I mean, we would have 3 p.m. practices in the heat of the summer here, and it was so hot. And like now being in Denver, it's kind of just like, it's a lot nicer in the weather, but it's awesome to be in Houston, like in the summers in the mornings. And I'm super happy to be here. And like, people always say like the altitude or the humidity training that I've done all through my life kind of like sticks with you, and that's a nice thing to like have in the back of my mind going into this race. So I'm very excited about that.
Alex has a microphone for you, Dale.
What does it feel like to be returning to Houston for your first marathon? I'm assuming this was not coincidental. You probably were pointing for the race this year, and realistically, what do you think you can run Sunday? I think you have a shot at breaking the American record here. Is that on your mind?
Oh, that's a big question. I mean, when I watched the Houston Marathon when the Olympic trials were here, I remember sitting like, and I was in high school. It was like, that is so cool that people can do that like in my hometown, and like it was kind of always a dream to run a marathon here. I didn't plan it to be my first one, but I ran the half marathon 2 years ago, and that was such an awesome experience to run through the streets that I grew up on, and like to not be able to do that last year was kind of like a challenge, but I'm so happy that I get to be part of this awesome field. I'm not as, since this is my first marathon, it's really hard to say like what kind of time to expect, and like with the weather, you never really know what's going to happen. I just want to compete, and I think regardless of the time, I think if I compete well, I'll be really happy with what happens on the day.
Oh, okay. Mr. Ashida, how is training going for you, and going from training in Japan in Japan versus training anywhere else?
ここまでの練習は結構順調に来たので、初海外マラソンということで、どれだけ自分の力を試せるか全力で頑張りたいと思います。
Training's been very good. Everything's gone completely according to schedule, so I'm feeling fairly confident. On the other hand, it's my first time outside Japan, period, for a race, and that always brings some variables, so I'm really curious to see how it's going to go, being overseas versus having good training behind me.
For Kenta, what made you choose Houston as your first race outside of Japan?
「非常に歴史のある大会で、この大会だったら自分のベストが出せるかなと思っていたので、それで招待していただいたので、出ることを決めました。
I'm aware of the Chevron Houston Marathon as a race with a long history, and so I wanted to be part of that history. And looking at the results that have happened here over the years, I felt like this is a race where I would have a good chance to run a PB. And when I was invited, I was very happy to accept.
For Calcule, you ran 2:08:36 here in 2020. and were on course record pace for quite a while. What did you learn from last year's race that might help you run even faster this year?
በደንብ ተዘጋጅቻለሁ ለማሸነፍ። በዛን ሰዓት አየር ንብረቱም ቀዝቃዛ ነበር። አየር ንብረቱ ጥሩ ከሆነ ከዛ የተሻለ ለመሮጥና ለማሸነፍ ጥሩ ሰዓት ለማምጣት ነው የተዘጋጀሁት።
From last year, I learned so many things. The weather was very cold last year. Maybe if it's a little bit better this year, I'm ready, to have a new record.
Back to you, Frank. Could you fill us in a little bit on your evolution as a runner? I know you were born in Mexico. How old were you when you came to Houston? And obviously you ended up at Strike and had a great career there. But just kind of talk about the progression all the way through Furman, if you can.
Yeah, so I grew up I was born in Mexico City, and I moved to the States, to Houston, when I was 5, and spent most of my life here. Went to Strake Jesuit and kind of fell in love with running there. It's good. And under Coach Mike Curley's tutelage, and I wouldn't be where I am without him. But from there, I went to Furman University in Greenville, South Carolina, kept improving, and since graduating, I think I've improved a lot since then, and with moving to Boulder, Colorado, and joining the Roots Running Project. And it's been an awesome ride to kind of come full circle and be ready for this race. So I'm really excited.
And one final question for Frank. Why did you choose Houston for your debut, and are you expecting many friends and family out here on the course in Houston?
I chose Houston because it's home. A few weeks ago, I had a layover that had it in Houston that got delayed, and fortunately, it was what am I going to do? And then I was like, wait, my mom's here. My whole family's here. I was like, why am I freaking out about this place? Got a nice surprise stay in Houston. And at that point, I already decided to run the marathon. But my first run, my run that I did while I was here was around Memorial Park, naturally. And it was so cool to see how much everything's changed. And now the loop's actually 3 miles. Before it was just under, which is really satisfying to see on the watch. Yeah, and then when I saw the story about how we're gonna get to go under the land bridge, I was like, this is so cool. Every single thing I've heard about this marathon has just gotten so exciting for me, because it was just this is home, and that's why I'm doing it. It's home.
We're going to wrap that up with our men's elite field. One more question. Go right ahead.
Yeah, how do you plan to any strategies or anything special to compete with the African runners? And will that hurt you as far as your pace and your race itself?
30キロまで全力でやって、あとは流れに任せます。
I think the race is going to really just get started after 30K, as it often does. So just bide my time until then, and then go with the flow after 30K.
All right, men, thank you very much, and welcome to Houston, the members of our elite field for the men's marathon. Thank you. Of course. Alex doing double duty here. Next up are representatives from the elite field in the women's marathon. Same setup. We'll introduce them one by one, and as a group, they'll field questions from the media. We begin with Barukata Degefa from Ethiopia. Welcome. In 2020, she had the opportunity to make history in her 7th consecutive Chevron Houston Marathon appearance. If she had won, she would be the first ever athlete, male or female, to win the race 4 times. She was denied finishing as a strong runner-up, but she is back for the 8th race in a row, making another run at the history books. She returns this year as a favorite for the title with the fastest personal best in the field. From Ethiopia, we welcome Barukata Degefa. Welcome. Next up, from the U.S., Kira D'Amato. Kira, welcome. What a great story you have authored. She took a 7-year break from the sport, but is now among the top marathoners in the U.S. 4-time All-America at American University. She briefly ran post-collegiately until ankle surgery, quote-unquote, ended her running career back in 2008. But D'Amato was determined to return. She won her first U.S. title when she broke the tape at the USA Track and Field Half Marathon Championships, a personal best 107.55. D'Amato says boldly her goal in Houston is definitely to win. She believes she is fitter than she was last year when she ran 2:22. She would like to not only win, but run a personal best. From the U.S., we welcome Kira D'Amato. Welcome. Next up, we welcome Ascale Marache. Welcome, Ascale. Our defending champion, Marache, made her marathon debut in 2016 in China. In the 2020 Chevron Houston Marathon, she separated from the lead pack before the 10K mark. She was on a course record pace for much of the race before breaking the tape in 2:23.29. That time made her the 4th fastest woman in race history. We welcome our defending champion from Ethiopia, Ascale Marache. Welcome. One more time from the U.S., we welcome Maggie Montoya to the stage. Maggie, welcome. Montoya ran her half marathon personal best, 1:10.06, right here in Houston in 2020. That time good enough to get her named to Team USA for the World Athletics Half Marathon Championships. She most recently finished a strong 8th in the USA Track and Field Half Marathon Championships held last December. Welcome, Maggie Montoya. I think the crew is ready with microphones if we have questions from our media. I will go ahead and start. Maggie, you're at the end there. The weather has been a huge topic here in Houston. It is highly unusual, perhaps, that we will be in the mid-30s to begin the race. How do you deal with that, and how will that affect the race?
I'm pretty comfortable in most temperatures as long as it's not like in the 20s or above 80 degrees. I went to school in Texas and grew up in Arkansas, so I'm pretty used to hot, humid temperatures. So really any temperature with not too much wind is pretty ideal.
We expect a great race. More questions? Got a hand raised?
As far as the pandemic goes, how did it affect all you guys? As far as training?
Tell you what. Kira, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, of course. That sounds good. For me, during the pandemic, it affected training a little bit just because we had to get creative. Our kids were then out of school, so I had to work extra hard to figure out with my husband's schedule how we were going to fit everything in. But luckily, running is a solo, safe sport that you can do alone and through the parks and the trails. So when everything shut down for me, running didn't have to. So running was actually kind of like my strong point and my control, something I can control, and everything was going crazy. So I really was drawn to running even more during COVID because it kind of gave me strength and hope that we could get through it.
I'll continue with our defending champion, Ascale Marache. Question for you. How is it different returning here as the defending champion, and why do you think this course suits you so well?
itti qophaa'ee jira wal dorgommii kana. Ji'a sadii walakkaadha kan itti qophaa'e. Garuu akka duraallee akka barbaannetti baanee gallee hojjechuu baadhu sirriitti qophaa'ee jira. Kanaafuu namuu adda jedhee tayyaadha jechuudha. Qabxii gaariin galmeessadee tayyaadha.
I'm adequately prepared for this marathon. For the last 3 months and a half, I've been preparing myself, and I'm very determined to set my personal best and to set a new record.
Any more questions?
For Baruch Tate, what is it about Houston that makes you want to keep coming back? And if you win on Sunday, what would that mean to you to be the first athlete to win 4 times?
ሂውስተን ደጋግሜ እንድመጣ የሚያደርገኝ በቃ ኮርሱንም በጣም ወደዋለሁ። ሬስ ኦርጋናይዘሮቹም አሪፍ ነገር ስላላቸው ፈጣንም ሰዓቴን ብዙን ጊዜ ደጋግሜ እዚህ ከሁለቴም ከ23 ስለሮጥኩኝ ፈጣን ስለምሮጥበት ደስ ይለኛል።
I like Houston because I like the trail, and also I like the organizers. I like the way it's set up. So I win most of the time with good records, and I intend to win with good record again.
Tremendous answer. I like the organizers. What a wonderful response. Any more questions?
And for Kira, from Aaron Strout at Women's Running, you said about a month ago that you'd factor in your final workouts plus the weather forecast before you came up with your race strategy. How are you feeling now about going for a win and or a PR?
Yeah, the last few months buildup has been almost ideal for me. So I feel like I'm in my best shape ever, which is a real exciting and gives me a lot of confidence towing the line on Sunday. I definitely think I'm in shape to PR, which is 2:22, and the course record is definitely on my mind as well. So it's been, sometimes when training doesn't go well, it kind of gives you it takes off a little bit of the pressure, right? Because you're like, it wasn't ideal, let's just go do my best. But training has been pretty much perfect. So I'm really excited to see what I can do on Sunday, and especially among this amazing field. I think it's going to be a really fantastic race.
For Maggie, what made you choose Houston for your marathon debut?
I came here 2 years ago to do the half marathon, and almost our whole team was down here, and everybody had a phenomenal race. It was a ton of fun. I have a lot of positive emotions surrounding this event. And when plans for a fall marathon fell through, I knew immediately I wanted to do Houston, and I'm very excited to be here with my teammates for our first marathons.
And for Escale, in December 2020, you won a marathon in Taiwan. Before that event, you had to quarantine in a hotel room with a treadmill for 2 weeks. Can you tell us what that was like?
Haalli sun baay'ee ulfaataa ture. Garuu waaqayyo na gargaaretu torban lama kwaarantii ture. Maashinii irraan hojjechaa ture torban lama guutuu maasaajiin hin jiru. Rakkina san hunda keessa dabarreetu mo'achuu kootiif baay'ee itti gammadee jira wal dorgommii sana.
It was a difficult situation. I was in a hotel room for nearly 2 weeks, and I could not even receive a massage or any help. But through that all, God helped me, and I was very happy for winning the marathon. So I was very happy about that. Despite the odds, I was able to win.
And for Maggie, 2021 has been a challenging year for everyone, but it's fair to say you've seen more challenges than most. Have you changed as either a person or a runner from what you've faced?
Yeah, so 2021 definitely was not ideal. Going through the trauma of earlier the year and then facing my first injury to the buildup of my first trials qualifier. I think it's made me just appreciate all the new opportunities I can have and being here and just excited to run.
Maggie, could you elaborate a little bit on the injury, and also obviously you and Frank are teammates, and maybe talk a little bit about the friendship there and the fact you're both debuting together here in the marathon?
Yeah, so 2 weeks before the U.S. Olympic trials for track and field, I was in New York. I'd had some like hip pain like 2 days before, but nothing I couldn't run through. And then I went for my shakeout in Central Park and could not take a step. And I knew instantly something was wrong. And facing that was real tough. But I had an incredible team and friends and family that supported me through that. And then being teammates with Frank is a hoot. It's a lot of fun. We actually lived in Mexico City at the same time when we were kids. We just didn't know that, obviously. So it's kind of cool. We're coming full circle and now we're teammates. It's a great team and he's a joy to have.
And one more question for Kira. Your career of the past few years reads almost like a fairy tale, although one that undoubtedly involved a lot of hard work. Do you ever sit back sometimes and marvel at what's happened?
Totally. I tell people it's funny because like half of my brain can't wrap my head around everything that's happened. It just, like you said, it feels kind of like a fairy tale. Like a couple years ago, I was, begging the race director to let me in and start with the elite women, and now I'm up here today. That just feels so wild, and it's hard to wrap my head around. But then the other 50% of my brain is this really confident, like fierce competitor that, I get there and I just think, what's next? What's next? What's next? And I've been training, my butt off the last few years. I have a really great coach, and I don't know, I'm just kind of a fierce competitor. So it's so funny just to kind of step back and look at my journey and just can't believe it. But then the other part, I've been there putting in the miles, blood, sweat, and tears, and I know how I got here. So it's just, I don't know, it's been a wild ride. I'm happy to be here. I can't wait to race on Sunday, and hoping for a fairy tale ending.
I think that'll wrap it up for us. Tremendous answers, and we welcome you. All of you have such great stories. Have a great race this weekend, our elite field from the women's marathon. Thank you so much.
guys ready?
Yeah.
Talk to us, Mayor. How are you, sir?
I am doing fine, doing fine.
So you have the parade coming up Monday.
The Martin Luther King parade will be on Monday morning, starting promptly at 10 o'clock. In fact, the kind of like the pre-show will start at 9:30, and then the parade itself will start at 10. And as you know, the grand marshal for this parade is none other than the director, Vanessa Wyke of NASA, the first African-American and certainly first African-American female to lead any of the NASA centers. So we're very excited about that. The emphasis is on black astronauts that have gone into space or will be going into space. And Director Vanessa Wyke symbolizes the past, the present, as well as the future, encouraging people